sat down to put together some notes for this program to rehash and to recall all of the things that I am so grateful to the Reagan administration for doing, so grateful to Ronald Wilson himself for doing. Why, I tell you, it became an endless list. And so I can only barely scratch the surface, but on this very, very special day, Ronald Reagan Appreciation Day, allow me to scratch. It's just one last show, yes, of my appreciation and yours for all that this man has done, be it real or imagined, over the last 8 years. In the real category, there is, of course, the approximate $32,000 in national debt for the average family of four. That's their share of the debt. It was something in the neighborhood of $10,000 in 1980, but today it's $32K. I don't have any particular problem with that. What the hell? I don't have any children or grandchildren. Not planning on having any. I mean, all I have to leave the debt to is Sophie, and frankly, I can't think of anybody more deserving than to dump hopeless debt on. Of course, that debt grows by approximately $2,500 annually for the average family of four. Then there's the nearly 1,000 bright-eyed young servicemen who have died for no particular reason over the last 8 years. The nearly 1,000 bright-eyed young Americans that Ronald Reagan never seems to mention. There is, of course, the epidemic drug problem. Now, yes, indeed, in the 1980s, the drug problem has become epidemic. You know it as well as I. And, of course, it would be unfair to overlook that there was a drug problem in 1979. Of course, it was basically the darkies, down in the ghetto and the weird kids with the long hair. Today, it's your dentist, your lawyer, your employer, probably you. I am so appreciative of the House of Cards economy created with the infusion of some $6 trillion in public, corporate, and private debt, most of which cannot be paid back. For doing everything in his power to restore class to this country, which had been a classless nation prior to his coming along. But Ronald Reagan likes the haves and the have-nots, and so do the people who like Ronald. I'm grateful for that. It gives me something to talk about. I'm grateful to him for having divided this nation into one of them versus us. Prior to the 1980s, no one suggested that conservatives or that Republicans were unpatriotic. But now, Ronald Reagan has actually employed people in his administration who not only infer, but actually from time to time even say that Democrats and liberals are in bed with the commies, that anybody who doesn't agree with Reagan's political point of view is in essence not a good American. I am grateful for that. Extremely grateful, ladies and gentlemen. I'm grateful for him to make it okay once more to be greedy and selfish and short-sighted, and even to be a bit bigoted once more. Why, do you realize in 1979 it would have been damn near impossible to get people to come on the air and publicly say how much they dislike people of color? Virtually impossible. Only the lunatic fringe would have said that. Now, many people feel comfortable saying it. I'm grateful for redirecting this nation's focus on something else, someone else, whenever it comes time to assess blame. I'm grateful for that phrase, oh yeah, blame America first. To shut off any kind of debate, to shut off any kind of discussion as to how we might go about solving our problems. I'm grateful. It gives me, again, something to talk about. I'm grateful for his constant, if empty, references to God. Why, it was only last month, just a few short weeks ago, when Ronald Reagan said that the nation was praying for the safety of the whales up there in Alaska. He said that on the very same day that all three television networks carried stories on the continuing plight of the victims of drought and starvation in Africa. But no such national prayer call was made by our big guy for that, just for 3 whales, one of whom, by the way, apparently died. I guess God only listened to 2/3 of his prayer. I'm grateful for that. Do you know how many hundreds and hundreds and hundreds of hours of programming I have gotten out of empty, symbolic religion? And if it wasn't for the likes of Ronald Reagan, who said things like, oh, when they hijacked that plane in Pakistan and 17 people were killed, who said, thank God it was only 17. I remember these things. I'm grateful for them. I got an entire show out of just that one statement. Thank God it was only 17. I'm grateful to Ronald Reagan for citing that one of the reasons we should back a war in Nicaragua was because the government there restricted labor unions. Not only did it give me a show, it gave me one hell of a laugh. Although my thigh is still somewhat black and blue, and I am going to seek medical treatment for it. I'm grateful to him for lying through his teeth about just exactly what it is that the stupid defense initiative is intended to do. I'm grateful to him for so many things. For steadfastly limiting access to the press and the people when it comes time to answer questions about just what the administration was up to. But the list, it goes on and on and on, ladies and gentlemen. There are those who, along with me, would cite giving us Edwin Meese, a man skilled at impropriety, and yet managing to avoid stepping over the line. I mean, coming as close as you can come to going to the pokey, still achieving whatever the hell it is that you wanted to achieve, and get away with it. What a fine, fine example to the young people in this country Edwin Meese has been. We can look forward to an entire generation of greedy little SOBs taking it to the limit, if you'll pardon the expression, and managing to stay out of jail. Then there was Oliver North. Ah, yes, a fine young man who circumvented our own democratic ways in order to restore democracy in a nation that has never known democracy. And a nation that has never known democracy primarily because it was not in this nation's interest. I'm grateful for being pig-headed and giving us 7 years of substandard air traffic control, thereby putting at risk literally everyone who flies in this country. I'm grateful for that. I appreciate his reducing the tax burden on the wealthy, since now I'm getting frightfully close to being wealthy, and for suckering the rest of you in the middle class into thinking that it was your taxes he was cutting, while in essence he was raising them. I appreciate that, personally and professionally. I appreciate him for creating jobs at a slower rate than one Jimmy Carter, and lying about it, and patting himself on the back for doing it. It gives me food for thought. It gives me fodder for the show. I mean, if Ronald Reagan had said, well, gee, gosh, I don't know what's the matter. I mean, it looks like we've got this great economy, but we're creating jobs at a slower rate than the last guy. What could I have done with that? Nothing. I'm grateful for eliminating several million high-paying skilled jobs and replacing them with unskilled, low-paying jobs. I'm grateful to him for presiding over the first decline in home ownership in half a century. Again, material for the show. I'm grateful to him for leaving behind a savings and loan industry that is all but bankrupt. I probably won't be very grateful when it comes time to bail out all those old farts who supported Reagan and had their money in S&Ls, but what the hell? They're listeners too, you know? I'm grateful to him for so many things. For bringing stalwarts such as J. Danforth Quayle, Paula Hawkins, and Connie Mack with him to Washington on his coattails. No other way would these people have ever been elected to public office had it not been for Ronald Wilson Reagan. How could we possibly have much to talk about if it wasn't for those three and scores of others? I'm grateful to him for spending more on dinnerware for the White House than millions of Americans will earn in an entire lifetime. I'm grateful to him for honoring the Nazi soldiers in Bitburg. I got a week's worth of programs out of that one. I'm grateful to him for nodding off while listening to the Pope. Wait a second, let me scratch that one out. How the hell can you... Nah, you can't have a complaint with a guy that does. I'm grateful to him for seeing nothing wrong with consulting astrologers. Of course, it can be said in his defense, because there are those of you, I know there are those of you that are going to say, wait a second, these are left-handed compliments. So, of course, it can be said in his defense that he did lower inflation and interest rates, though no one seems to know just how he did it. And I seem to be the only guy that ever bothers to ask, how did he do it? But this is but a partial list of the things that I am grateful for, the things that I personally appreciate, the things that Ronald Wilson Reagan has done that have helped Mary and I to claw our way out of the ranks of the lower middle class into the exclusive top 5% income club. I will always be grateful. And to tell you the truth, I will miss the big guy. Though I suspect that his term will be cause for discussion for the rest of my natural life. And so it is with a sincere belief that you, the humble listener, should have your chance to express your appreciation as well. That I give you the telephone numbers and turn the rest of the program over to you on this Monday, November the 7th, 1988, otherwise known as Ronald Reagan Appreciation Day. To appreciate Mr. Reagan in Pinellas, Mr. Reagan in Hillsborough, and for those of you who would like to appreciate Mr. Reagan on the Practical Joke Line, Appreciation Day with a young man from Tampa who has become somewhat of a regular on the program, a true Reaganite, a member of the Reagan youth. Downtown Dave. Downtown, how you doing?
How are you, Bob?
Oh, great. It's a glorious day, Dave.
Beautiful day. Beautiful day in the neighborhood. I just wanted to let you know that I'm pretty grateful for his administration because he showed his administration should be credited with the best unemployment figures since post-World War II. I'm grateful for Reagan for dealing
Wait a second, Dave. Are you talking about those unemployment figures that every time they come out, your market goes tumbling for because people are fearful of high employment?
Well, yeah. First we have the problem now of too much work.
Too much work.
Oh yeah, yeah. I'm also grateful for his administration for dealing with terrorist communist guerrillas with a gun instead of lip service.
Which ones did you have in mind?
The Sandinistas. Okay. The Afghan freedom fighters.
Dave, first of all, the Sandinistas are not terrorists in that they don't leave their own country.
Oh,
Dave, ask Ronald Reagan, because the Sandinistas are a legitimate, recognized government by the Reagan administration. And those Afghan freedom fighters that you spoke of, do you have any idea who they are?
Ask anybody who used to live...
Dave, do you have any idea who they are?
No.
Dave, they are people who would make the Ayatollah Khomeini seem like a reasonable man. They are Muslim fundamentalists.
Yeah. I also wanted to let you know that you should, you should ask anybody who used to live in Grenada. Okay, what went on there? All about those communist guerrillas down there.
Are you talking about the roughly 15 hoodlums?
You got to understand.
Who took over the government there?
Maybe it's something that you don't understand, Bob. People that used to live in Grenada really don't have a lot of weapons there. Okay. And if you can come in with 15 or 20 or 50 guerrillas with a gun, okay, you can easily take over the island.
Then why did it take 6,000 stormtroopers almost 2 weeks to do it?
I don't know. I don't know that. All I know is the people down there who were quite fearful of these people with a gun, we came in and cleaned them out.
Dave, don't you remember those medical students who were rescued having to be told when they were brought back to this country that they had been rescued? Most of them didn't know they had any problem?
Most of them didn't know that there was communist guerrillas down there with guns either.
There weren't. There were 750 Cuban construction workers with guns.
Oh, Cuban construction. What are Cubans doing in Grenada?
They were building an airport.
Is that what? Oh, and you believe that?
Well, yes, I believe it because we finished building it.
Okay, well, I don't believe that. All right, I'm also pretty grateful. I'm also pretty grateful to him for teaching me not to rely on
Dave.
Yeah.
The airport was right next to the college. Remember? The airport that you don't believe that they were building, that we finished building, it was right next to the college.
Sure.
And it was one of the stated reasons for going in there was to stop the construction of the airport.
I believe that's where they found a lot of stockpiles of weapons, didn't they?
Yes, quite a number of weapons, that's true.
That's what I heard.
You would also find warehouses full of small weapons in Florida.
Right. Okay, but what would, I don't understand, what would people in Grenada want to do with weapons? What do they need weapons for?
I suppose the same reason that the people in the state of Florida need them.
I don't think so. I know people from Grenada, Bob, and they told me that was the best thing that we.
Wait a second, Dave. Are you against citizens having guns? Would you have me believe that we went into Grenada to stop the free distribution of guns?
No, that wasn't.
To crush the people who wanted to impose gun control on the good citizens of Grenada?
Bob, have you ever had a gun to your head? Have you ever had somebody point a gun to your head?
Figuratively, perhaps.
Okay, well, I can't say that I ever have, but I can't imagine somebody who would, okay, and I probably would be scared to death. And fortunately, thank God...
Probably would be scared to death.
Yeah.
Well, of course, you're the guy that didn't believe the airport was there either, so okay.
All I know is I would, from what I understand what happened down there, now this is what I understand what happened down there, okay? I'm kind of glad that we cleaned out those communist guerrillas.
They weren't communist guerrillas. There were 15 Grenadian thugs who murdered the head of the government. It's for all practical purposes. You see, Grenada is a small town for all practical purposes. It's not really a nation per se, even though it has national status. And there were, as I recall, 15 thugs who killed the head of the government and took the government over.
Right. I'm pretty grateful for Reagan for finally sitting down with the Soviets and getting an arms treaty going. I'm grateful for him to teaching me not to rely on government guarantees and promises and to get off my rear end and do it myself. And I'm grateful for Reagan and his administration.
Wait a second. Did you ever sell an SNL stock?
Did I?
Yeah.
No.
Have you ever sold a bank stock?
Yes, I have.
Oh, I see. And you're grateful for Reagan helping people to not depend on the government.
That's the market. I mean, you can't blame a president or authoritative figure.
Did you ever sell any Continental Illinois stock?
No, I didn't sell it. That wasn't due to Reagan. That was due to their own negligence. How can you compare the two?
But it was the Reagan administration that bailed them out. It was the Reagan administration that didn't let them pull themselves up by their own bootstraps.
That was also the Reagan administration that also saved a lot of jobs and stepped in when the time is right. Also, you gotta exercise some prudence here.
Saved a lot of jobs.
Well, how about when they pulled up Chrysler out of their bootstraps?
Dave, when did that happen?
I don't know. Back in the 80s, I believe.
Keep going.
70s?
Yeah.
Oh, maybe I'm mistaken on that. All right.
Okay, so, stocks and airports are your weakness. Go on.
Okay. Well, I don't know about stocks, but maybe I just misplaced the time with Chrysler. But I'm also grateful for his administration for getting the interest rates down. I didn't credit Reagan.
Dave, I didn't think this would happen this early in the show, but here it comes, possibly for the last time. Dave, what did he do to lower interest rates?
He chose an administration. Also, I understand that Mr. Carter chose Mr. Paul Volcker. All right? I know Reagan didn't do anything to get it down. His administration, I didn't.
And why did you say that he did?
I didn't give Reagan the credit. I gave his administration the credit. Okay?
Well, Dave, this may come as a great shock to you, but the Federal Reserve Board is not part of the administration.
Okay, but the person who controls the Federal Reserve Board is at the head of the Federal Reserve Board does. Okay? And Carter picked him, and Reagan told him what he wanted to do.
Reagan told Paul Volcker what he wanted? Dave,
what his interest
the Reagan people despised Paul Volcker. They just couldn't get rid of him because the market loved him. They despised Paul Volcker.
In 1980, okay, when Reagan came in, Paul Volcker, this is what I think, Paul Volcker, all right, had a job to do, and that was to get unemployment down and to get America back to work. Is that correct? And the only way to do that would be fine-tuning the economy, which he did very well.
Dave, unemployment was 7% when Mr. Reagan came into office, and 2 years later it was over 10.
2 years later it was over. Well, that's when we hit bottom at that point.
2 years into
right
the administration.
That's right. Okay, and this I can't understand how you could blame him for all these things.
By the way, one of the ways that we now have 5% unemployment as opposed to the 7% that we had when Mr. Reagan took over is that we now count people who are employed part-time as employed. We didn't used to do that.
Oh, yeah? Why don't you ask somebody out of this AFL, American Federation of Labor, or any auto industry worker, any person who's on the assembly line, how much better they feel now than they did 8 years ago?
Well, are you talking about the 400,000 whose jobs have disappeared?
I'm talking about the 32 million jobs that were just recently created.
It's now 32 million jobs.
Yeah.
Oh, my God, even Reagan only takes credit for 17.
Well, I think the total amount for the year was 32 million jobs.
For the year, that's incredible. That means we have approximately something like 110 million people employed totally. And 32 million of them came just in the last year?
That's what I understand.
That's astonishing. What a figure.
Well, straighten me out on that figure then. Maybe
I just did.
Straighten me out.
Dave, there are only 240 million of us to start with. Roughly 6 million of us come into the labor force every year by, graduating from school and coming of age.
Mm-hmm.
And 32 million jobs just in the last year?
That's what I understand.
Holy cow.
Well, then what I feel is that the economy, from what they say in the Journal this morning, the economy has picked up so much steam that they're now fearing inflation.
Dave, is that the very same paper that said in October of 1929 not to worry?
Yeah.
That it was, the economy was fundamentally sound? Is that the very same Wall Street Journal?
Yeah, I believe so.
I believe it is, too. Thank you so much,
Have
Dave.
a good afternoon.
Do you... Now, Sydney and Land O'Lakes. Hi, Sydney. You're on the air at 970 WFLA on Ronald Reagan Appreciation Day.
Yeah, hi, Bob. I'm from New York, and I just opened up my
From New York?
And
Are you serious? From New York?
I put your station on.
From New York? Are you serious?
Yeah, to listen to your diatribe about my president.
You came down here deliberately?
Your president, too, you see.
You came down here especially to listen to me?
The sitting president of this country is showing me that people like Dukakis and all his associates, like Farrakhan, Jackson, and all the rest of the scum of the earth. And unfortunately, the way you sound to me, you don't sound like a real man. So I don't want to use any profanity or any words to describe you and your like. But to listen to what you said about our president, and I don't care about your economic bullshit because all of that
details,
comes off the
man.
same way from all these lying politicians. They're all the same.
Sure, they tell the
truth. This man is a sitting president of the United States.
Unfortunately, sitting on his brains.
It isn't right for you to sit there, and I listened every word that you said for 10 minutes lambasting a man that's led this country for the last 7 years.
Minutes. It was 30 minutes.
What?
It was 30 minutes. I know time flies when you're enjoying yourself. It was 30 minutes that I lambasted him.
No, 30. Well, then I
know.
Caught only 20 minutes of it.
Oh.
But, I don't mean to get upset with you. I know you're doing well. You got a nice job. You're making a living. It's fine for you to stand up for certain things that you think are right.
Sydney, I am not making a living, sir. I'm making a killing.
Great. No, hey, good luck to you. I got nothing against you. But just why talk about a sitting president? Why not wait until he gets out of office to lambast him?
Well, because, Sydney, you see, this is really, for all practical purposes, Ronald Wilson Reagan's last day in office. Because tomorrow, of course, is the elections, and on Wednesday, everybody will be talking about the new president-elect. And since this is actually really the end of the Reagan era today, I just thought it would be appropriate to have Ronald Wilson Reagan Appreciation Day, because I certainly do appreciate this man.
All right, Robert. Thanks very much.
You're sure you're from New York?
I'm from New York.
Could have sworn it was an Ohio, brogue that I detected there.
No. Right from New York.
Right from New York.
Side, and now I'm in East Pasco County, but no Democrat is in my mind at all. So that's one.
I don't think there are any Republicans in your mind either, Sydney.
Okay. Bye.
Bye. Standing by on Ronald Wilson Reagan Appreciation Day with a WFLA news brief, none other than the ever-popular Charlie Davis. Definitely to the time. By the way, for the benefit of Sydney and Land O'Lakes, at least the guy has mended his ways. Louis Farrakhan, I don't think is an associate of Michael Dukakis. The reason I don't think he is because Farrakhan tells his people not to vote. Farrakhan says, don't take part in the system at all. And especially don't take part with the Democrats because, but then in the words of our beloved leader, Ronald Wilson Reagan, facts are stupid things, especially if they don't go along with the rest of your argument. Steve in Tampa. Hi, Steve. You're on the air at 970 WFLA.
I like to say, how can anyone judge Ronald Reagan and not know all the rotten things he has done for this country.
I beg your pardon, Steve. I'm very, very appreciative to this man. He has made me what I am.
Yeah, well, to know Ronald Reagan, to appreciate him, and what he
what did he give to this country? Steve, would you please listen very closely?
Yes.
That's my new gold ring, Steve.
Yes.
I owe it to Ronald Reagan.
Nah, the gold dropped 400 points since he's been in office.
No, Steve. Actually, as I recall, the gold market peaked out in the summer of 1980 prior to his coming to office.
Well, okay, about in that era. I mean, all this guy gave us is sleaze. I mean, he gave us $100 billion worth of waste and corruption only in the Pentagon. He gave us enough
Steve,
sleaze.
that was good for 3 shows.
He gave us enough sleaze and corruption to fire and indict 150 of his own men, appointees. He has handed
Well, it was closer to 110.
110. No, there's over 150 that had to scramble out of office. And he has handed our flag to the foreign nations. And his foreign policy...
No, he didn't give the flag to the foreign nations, just stock in the flag factory.
His foreign policy was and is just a flood of mistakes and a flood of coffins of our servicemen and civilians back to this country. All he ever did was make mistakes in our foreign policy. And this goof has promised us no taxes like Bush. And he's raised more taxes than any other administration in our history.
Well, Steve, it's not my fault that you thought he was talking to you when he said he was going to lower your taxes. I knew who he was talking to. So I can't help it if you didn't realize it.
He said he was going to lower our imports. He increased them. And instead of increasing our exports...
I can't remember him saying that.
Instead of increasing our exports, he decreased our exports. This guy, he did not lower our national debt. He tripled it. I mean, he didn't even bring the hostages home. In fact, he increased them.
Well, Steve, there weren't any hostages the first day that Ronald Reagan was in office.
Well, I mean,
so how could he bring home hostages? Steve, now wait a second. Let's be fair about this. How could Ronald Reagan bring home the hostages that didn't exist before he became president?
I'm talking about during this term he was going to bring them home.
Oh, you're referring to the ones that he said...
Oh, when he was campaigning in 1984.
Right, when he said, that
senators.
Never would anybody be held hostage under a Reagan administration. You're referring to those hostages.
Yeah, when he wanted more senators and more Supreme Court justices. He wasn't satisfied. The Republicans have appointed 8 out of the 9 Supreme Court justices, and they legalized
8 out of the 9?
And funded abortion under the Republican administration, and we got these crackpots running out there voting Republican and calling themselves pro-life. I mean, where do they have their heads? In the sand there?
No, I think their heads are very close to Ronnie's brains. Thank you very much, Steve. I appreciate that. I don't think Steve was taking part in the proper spirit of Ronald Reagan Appreciation Day. How do you feel about that? One line, you really shouldn't get paid for doing this. You seem to have such a great time in there. Joe in Gulfport. Joe, you're on the air at 970 WFLA.
I disagree with everything you say, Bob.
Timing's a little off, Joe. A little bit more of a pause in between, say and Bob. Dennis in Clearwater. Dennis, you're on the air. Oh, pity poo. Dennis couldn't hold out for Ronald Reagan Appreciation Day? Obviously, it must be a disgruntled Democrat. Let's see. John in Tampa. Make that Mark in Tampa. Mark, you're on the air at 970 WFLA.
Yes, Bob. I like to appreciate Ronald Reagan for the fine thing he did with deregulation in '82 with the airlines. I work for one of the major airlines as a baggage handler, and I make $12,000 a year. I'm working right next to someone doing the same job, but he makes $37,000 a year.
Oh, my word. That doesn't seem fair. We have to lower his salary.
I think so. And especially with the same thing happens with the post office, too. I understand with the part-timers with deregulation, and the country seems to be going all part-time.
Well, now, Mark, as I understand it, with that major airline that you refer to, actually, Mr. Reagan didn't have anything to do with that. You see, the guy earning $37,000,
yes,
he cut a deal with the airline that he would continue to get his $37,000, but anybody they hired after him would get what you're getting.
Oh.
That's a little closer to the truth as to the way that one happened.
And the way he handled the evil empire, Soviet Union. First 4 years in office, he called it an evil empire and ready to pushed the bomb. Then in last year, a big summit signs up.
Oh, well, Mark, apparently, again, I don't know where you're just behind. Ronald Reagan said he didn't call the Soviet Union an evil empire.
I must be listening to Radio Free Moscow here in my...
No, just because we had that on tape, and a lot of people heard it, he said he didn't do it.
And I agree with Downtown Dave with his high unemployment figures. There's just so many jobs open for $3.50 an hour. Everybody could run out and work and earn a living and raise a family on that. There's so many jobs open here in this country.
Well, many of those discount stockbrokers would be delighted to get $3.50 an hour.
Sure, I'm sure all those people on Wall Street are running out to get these jobs.
No, Mark, what I said is true. Many of those people would be delighted to get $3.50 an hour. I wasn't being facetious. I was being serious.
Oh, I attended a conference in the Soviet Union a few years ago, and what I gathered, the Soviet Union was been dying to trade with us over the years for consumer goods. Because they're a first world power with a third world economy. Their economy's really put down.
Well, I'm not so sure about that. The importation of consumer goods is a relatively new and still very small phenomena in the Soviet Union.
Yes, it just started.
The Soviet Union, they're weird people over there. They think it's kind of stupid to spend your wealth on consumer goods.
Yes, they'd rather put it all in the military and sit and wait.
Well, Mark, again, I'm not totally sure that this was a proper spirit of Ronald Reagan Appreciation Day, but nonetheless, I thank you for taking part, Mark.
Thank you very much, Bob.
Take care. 2 more hours of appreciation of our marvelous, marvelous guy, Ronald Wilson, the big guy Reagan.
I'm Charlie Davis. Now, here's more with News Radio 970 WFLA's Bob Lassiter.
Minutes after the hour of 1 o'clock on a Monday, not just any kind of a Monday, November the 7th, 1988, but Ronald Reagan Appreciation Day right here at the radio station. Wouldn't you know it? I mean, wouldn't you know it? All the folks in Pinellas have the lines all full. They appreciate it over there. But I don't understand the scum buckets in Hillsborough who apparently don't appreciate Ronald Wilson Reagan. Because their lines are all empty. 990-9352 is the number in Hillsborough to appreciate Ronnie. 990-9352. Larry in St. Petersburg. Larry, you're on the air at 970 WFLA.
Hey, Bob.
Hi, Larry.
How are you doing today?
Fine.
I love your approach to trying to stir the pot for the Reagan administration there. Not pros and cons. But majority of the people that are calling in are seems to be the people that are supporting this country. The majority of them are the little men, the ones trying to make ends meet. And,
well, that's okay, primarily
now,
what the country is comprised of.
Where are the big business people that calling in and telling us how bad off they are? Where are these people? I mean, sure, there are plenty of jobs out there for minimum wage. Sure, they're great. In fact, it was in the Times yesterday. It takes 2 incomes just to make the household meet their demands. And I'm just wondering where these people are that are having such the big business are having such a hard time. I was just curious what your response would be to that.
I don't know what the hell you're talking about.
You don't know what I'm talking about?
No, I can't ever recall getting a telephone call from IBM.
No, you wouldn't. No, you wouldn't. That's what I'm getting at. The little people are the ones supporting the country. They're the ones trying to make the ends meet. And it was in the Times saying that it takes 2 incomes just to make the household.
Well, that would be the case even if it wasn't in the Times.
Well, it just happened to be. But, I love your, the way you're trying, you're stirring up the pot as far as getting people all riled up about promoting Reagan. I'm not saying one way or the other how I will vote. That's.
I don't remember asking you.
No, and I wouldn't give you that information right now. But what I'm saying is, you're talking about how well off we are. Well, how come the paper...
No, sir.
What?
I wasn't talking about how well off we are. I was talking about how well off I am.
Well, we know how well off you are. I heard that.
It's because I told you, right.
I heard your ring fall on the floor. I understand that. but that's beside the point. But what I'm saying is...
not when it's on my finger, sir. It's not beside the point. Maybe if it was on yours, it would be.
No, I probably couldn't handle it. You're probably much larger than I am anyway. But I was
it's not where I wear the ring, sir.
What?
Nothing. Go ahead.
I caught part of that. I understand what you're saying. But anyway, like I say, there was a comment made, I think, with one of your other callers before the news that, there are plenty of jobs out there. Is this where we're supposed to be in such good shape because there are plentiful jobs?
Sir, I don't hear you appreciating Ronald Reagan, so I'm going to have to move on to somebody who will. Kevin in Zephyr Hills. Kevin, you're on the air at 970 WFLA.
Will I ever appreciate Ronald Reagan? Gosh, he has brought more thrills to my life than I can possibly imagine. Like, for instance, when he reinstituted the B-1 bomber. We were in such danger of losing another great weapons system. That liberal Carter, he got in there and thought that, hey, well, let's save some money for the poor people by canceling this bomber program. But Ronald Reagan picked up the gauntlet, and he knew that the American people really needed a new bomber. They were so tired of the B-52. Can you imagine grandfathers of new pilots flying the same plane that their grandchildren? It's ridiculous. So we've got a new bomber now. Now, don't start on this subject about how the plane is being brought down by Pelicans. I don't want to hear anything about how the plane has to have its avionics package redesigned, and that's going to cost more billions, because we can afford it. We can really afford it. And we can afford the self-bomber, too. But that's really not why I like Ronald Reagan. Ronald Reagan gave us a chance to try out the new law of whistleblowers. You see, during those weird, wacky Carter years, they had a whistleblower program which, if someone actually found waste in the federal government, actually could find somebody who was throwing away our tax dollars, they would receive a percentage, an actual percentage of the funds that they managed to blow the whistle on. And someone within the B-1 bomber program just managed to ramrod something through in this last week, and now we know it was almost like he won the lottery, $250,000. But there are so many more things to talk about Reagan for, and I'm just going to have to defer to the other intellectuals on your show.
Well, thank you, Kevin.
Thank you, Bob.
Take care. That's the spirit. Marianne in Gulfport. Hi, Marianne. You're on the air at 970 WFLA.
Hello, Bob. I just wanted to say that the things I'm so proud of President Reagan, I think they've all been brought forth by other callers about the interest and all.
What about the interest rates?
Let me say what I want.
Well, I will, Marianne. I want to help people out, because there are a lot of people out there
what you're
that don't understand.
You're going to do this, and then you're going to cut me off before
Marianne, you are the backbone of my personal economy. Honey, there ain't no way I'm going to cut you off. I just wanted to explain to the people out there who don't understand what you're saying. You see, back in 1980, when we had very high interest rates, it was because people insisted upon borrowing money that was actually there, and there wasn't that much of it. So that's what drove the interest rates up so high. And then Mr. Volcker came along, who said, hey, this is crazy. Instead of lending you a real dollar for 17%, tell you what I'll do. I'll lend you a make-believe dollar for 15%, and then he cut it to 13, and then he cut it to 11, and then he cut it to 10. So what we used to have is people borrowing real money for high rates. Now we have them borrowing make-believe money for lower rates. See? Now go on, Marianne.
I'm so glad you explained that to me, Bob. I have worried about that night and day. Well, what I wanted to say was possibly if our president had a line item veto, we could have brought down that deficit to a lot quicker. And also,
Marianne, he's the one that submitted budgets that were bigger. The deficits were bigger than the ones that he got back. So the line item veto wouldn't have helped him there, because most of his budgets were actually cut by the Congress, not increased.
Every time President Reagan come out with different methods of reducing the deficit, the Democrat Congress I'm talking about, would add all kind of items on there that.
Well, Marianne, why don't you refresh the memories?
Let me say why I'm proud.
Marianne, I'm trying to help you out. Why don't you refresh the memories of the listeners by telling them some of those things that Ronald Reagan wanted to do to reduce the deficit?
Mm-hmm. Now, are you through?
Well, I've asked a question. Why don't you tell the listeners what some of those things were that Ronald Reagan wanted to do to reduce the deficit?
I'll tell you, if our president did such a terrible job, why is it all other countries are trying to copy after us? And I don't see our citizens trying to get out and away from this terrible Republican administration and going someplace else. They all want here.
Are you talking about those citizens, Marianne, are you talking about those citizens that most Republicans would like to stand on the shores and machine gun as they're trying to get here?
I have never heard that. I've never heard that out of our president. In fact, didn't he just legalize the people that had been in here for so long and make them citizens of this country? I don't call that a president that isn't compassionate. And I'll tell you something else. I think he and Nancy both, if they never did another thing, should be such a beautiful inspiration as man and wife to this country. And what our president also...
Are you talking about a couple that doesn't get along with their children?
Now, there's another thing.
And a lady who's a clothes horse and goes to an astrologer?
You blame the President of the United States and his wife if his children have strayed away? I don't believe so. I think there's a lot of people listening to this program right now that have loved their children dearly, but their children have strayed away from them.
I know. We basically call them bad parents.
That's their fault. Now, may I say a few of the things I'm proud of the president about?
I'd be delighted, Marianne.
I would be delighted, too. I think that he stood up and said no to the Soviets when they told him about the strategic defense system. When all of this blasting at him, he's ruined it, he's caused a chasm now that won't be ever be repaired with the Soviets. But what happened? They came to us, and through our president, who I think has been an absolutely terrific president, we have
Marianne,
a possibility of an end to nuclear weapons.
Marianne, are you giving Ronald Wilson Reagan... Are you giving Ronald Wilson Reagan credit for a new generation of leadership in the Soviet Union?
I am giving our president credit for being the first president.
Marianne, would you have me, Marianne, would you have me believe that had Walter Mondale or Jimmy Carter been elected president instead of Ronald Wilson Reagan, that Brezhnev wouldn't have died?
We've had 4 Soviets die, one right after another that the president was dealing with. And I don't think another president, with the bashing this president has taken from people just like you, Bob, that would have stood up and said no when it would have been so much easier to say yes. And believe me, that there are so many times in our life there's so much love, more love in saying no than yes.
Well, what did he say no to?
He said no, that he would not stop his work with the strategic defense system.
So in other words, he said... So wait a second. Wait, Marianne, in other words, he said no, I'm not going to take away what doesn't exist.
What do you mean it doesn't exist?
Well, Marianne, suppose I said that I had on my desk a dual triundurine that I could put up into space that would zap goofball callers, okay? And you said, I'm not going to call unless you destroy the dual triundurine. But I don't have a dual triundurine. I'm only saying I do. And you know that I don't have it. So are you saying that you would be proud of me for refusing to get rid of what I don't have anyway?
Do you honestly have so little trust or faith in your government that you think the government of the United States
Whoa, Marianne.
Whoa, Marianne. Any strategic defense system being worked on?
Marianne, first of all, Ronald Reagan is not my government. My government is my Constitution.
Our government.
And all the laws that go along with it. And secondly, Marianne, no, there is not a strategic on bringing Houdini back, too.
Well, I'll I'll tell you something. I think what this president and our administration right now has tried to do has been wonderful. And whether you do or not, Bob, I think President Reagan has been a terrific president. And I'll tell you, anybody, whenever I'm around, isn't going to speak that up.
Marianne, how long have you lived in Gulfport?
How long have I lived in Gulfport?
Yeah. How long have you lived
I've only lived in Gulfport, I'd say about 6 years.
About 6 years.
I've lived in Florida 24.
You've lived in Florida 24 years. Marianne, I'll bet that you felt a lot safer 8 years ago walking the streets than you do today, don't you?
And you're going to blame that on the president? I don't blame the president for drugs. I don't blame the president for drugs, and I don't blame the president for our
Marianne,
ethics
Marianne,
change.
Marianne,
changing over.
Marianne, I was not blaming the president for drugs or people taking drugs. What I was suggesting is that what a tragedy it is that he didn't spend more time on making the streets safer for you than warding off an enemy that's not coming here anyway.
Well, I'll tell you something. I believe in taking care of our country, and I believe the only way that we're going to, even if it would be for you or I to take care of ourselves, Bob, is to keep our country strong.
Marianne, I'm not the one on Social Security. I am taking care of myself.
Well, now I'm on Social Security.
No. Are you serious?
Yeah. Oh, I know. You know that. I mean, you've accused me of having a hearing aid and so on and so forth.
What?
Well, I'll tell you something. I'll bet you this. I bet I could work circles around you.
Work circles around me?
That's right. I don't think that, just because people are older, I hear you calling them brainheads and so on and so forth. I'll tell you, I bet you a lot of these older people could get out and work circles around you.
Well, but Marianne, that's beside the point. You see, you were saying that you believe in people taking care of themselves.
Right.
I'm the one taking care of myself.
And
you're the one with your hand out.
I take care of myself.
Sure, with that humongous amount of money they take out of my check every 2 weeks for Social Security. That's how you take care of yourself.
Well, my husband and I worked a long time, and I'll tell you something else. My husband gave his life for this country, and he died in Bay Pines Hospital. So I don't think I'm getting anything for nothing. I think I have earned every penny that I get. And like I say, God bless our president. God bless this country. And if that is all I like to say it. God bless you, too, Bob.
Ronald Reagan Appreciation Day. Oh, Mama, turn off the air conditioning. Bonnie in Tampa. Bonnie, you're on the air 970 WFLA.
Hi, Bob.
Hi.
I would like to thank our president for the woman that he appointed as his liaison to women from 1980 to 86. Her name was Dee Jepson. She was a lovely woman, except that she wouldn't talk to the women from the National Organization for Women because she claimed they were contentious and she couldn't create a dialogue with them. But other than that, she was a lovely woman. She really was. Her only previous working experience prior to that, of course, was as a barmaid. But that was before she married Roger Jepson, the senator from Iowa.
As a barmaid?
Yes. That's where she met him, yeah.
Wow.
But I thought that was a great contribution towards the women's cause for 6 good years. And the only reason Roger Jepson isn't still our senator is because when they raided a so-called exercise salon that was a cover for a house of prostitution, they found a credit card slip from Roger. So he couldn't very well run for re-election. Otherwise, I'm sure Dee would still be there under the wing of the wonderful Ronald Reagan right now.
Well, okay. I'm speechless. I don't know quite what to say.
Well, just give thanks like I am.
Well, that's what we're doing today.
Yeah, and I appreciate it.
Thank you, Bonnie.
Bye.
Charles in Reddington Beach. Hi, Charles. You're on the air at 970 WFLA.
Hello, Bob.
Hi, Charles.
Glad to be on your program. I think we should thank Reagan for prosperity and for peace.
For prosperity and for peace.
Right. And also for unemployment being the lowest in, I think, 15 years.
14
years, okay. And
actually, since last June.
Reagan's taking blood from the servicemen. Well, the last 3 big wars were all by Democratic presidents, so I think we should be glad of that.
The last 3 wars?
The last 3 big wars.
Which 3 did you refer to, sir?
World War I, World War II, the Korean War, the Vietnam War.
Well, sir.
Yeah?
Do you mean you were opposed to stopping Hitler?
I was opposed to stopping Hitler. I hope so.
You were opposed to stopping the Chinese in Korea?
Correct.
You were opposed to that?
That's right. I fought for it, too.
And you were opposed to stopping Hitler. I want to make sure we have this correct here.
That's correct. My 2 sons were also in the service. I had 1 son in the Marines and 1 son in the Army Air Corps.
Would you have me believe that the majority of Republicans were also opposed to stopping Hitler?
I would hope so.
Sir, do you know what the word opposed means?
You said, did I oppose Hitler?
No, sir. I said, were you opposed to stopping Hitler?
No, I wasn't.
Well,
no.
good. I wanted to make real sure. Okay.
I understood the question.
So in other words, you were in favor of stopping Hitler.
That's correct.
You were in favor of stopping the Japanese.
That's correct.
You were in favor of stopping the Chinese.
That's correct.
And yet you're blaming the Democrats for doing so?
I didn't blame anybody. I gave you a fact that the Democratic president was in. And also, when they're blaming Reagan for everything, what is our Senate and our House for, of Representatives? What are they for? Aren't they to stop things or to do things? You know, it's a Democratic House, Democratic Senate for how long now? What have they done?
Oh, sir, what they did.
Will you tell me,
Well,
Bob?
yes, sir, I will. Sir.
You keep butting in on everybody. And your respectability program, Where's your respectability? Let's hear it from you now. Let's hear it, Bob. Let's hear your respect.
Sir.
Goodbye.
Sir. Sir, what the Democratic and House and the Democratic Senate, sir, were doing for the last 8 years were primarily rubber stamping all of Ronald Reagan's proposals. That's what they were doing. I guess that's why you didn't want to stick around after you asked that question. Off we go now to Steve in St. Petersburg. Steve, you're on the air at 970 WFLA.
Hey, Bob.
Hey, Steve.
Oh, it all messed up. I was going to do... I can do a better Lionel than the Lionel impersonator ever could.
Well, we're not impersonating Lionel today. Today is Ronald Reagan Appreciation Day.
Well, I appreciate Ronnie for telling us how he wouldn't... no one would be kidnapped under his administration, and I believe we have somebody named Terry Anderson over there being held hostage.
Well, we have quite a few people over there.
Well, he's the only one.
Surely you are referring to that great speech that he gave where he said he would move any mountain, ford any river until the jackals were brought to justice?
There you go.
Well, sir, just as soon as we can get him a map of Lebanon so that he can find out where the mountains and the rivers are, I'm sure he'll do something about it.
Well... I don't know. It just seems like that Ronnie was great for morale. Ronnie could make himself believable. I never actually bought it. I always saw Ronnie as rather a sad old codger, But at least he, what's the word I'm looking for? He pacified everyone's fears. Hearing that nice soothing voice. It's all right. I guess he did some good.
Well, so then why didn't Tim Coles have the same effect on the people?
Well, because Tim doesn't have a soothing voice like Ron. I don't know why. I can't for the life of me figure out why people voted for Ronnie Reagan.
Can't figure out for the life of me why Tim Coles is still on the air.
Well, I don't know. Coles is funny, that's why.
Funny?
I think he is.
He's funny in person, but not on the air.
I think he's funny on the air. I think he's very funny.
Do you know that his wife and I have the same hairdresser?
Oh, yeah?
Yeah.
Well,
It's true.
Yep. That's interesting. But I just, I can't figure out why Reagan got elected. On the surface, the guy seems completely idiotic. When I was watching it back in the 1980 election, I said, this guy will never make it. The guy sounds like an idiot. And he did. And I just scratched my head.
Yeah, it's a tough one. Well, thanks, Steve.
All right.
I don't think Steve was really really appreciating Ronnie. I'm one line available in Pinellas here on the air at 970 WFLA.
Hello.
Hi.
I'm grateful to Mr. Reagan for his loyalty to his friends. No matter what laws are broken, he always defends them to the bitter end. And he's also...
Sometimes even beyond.
And he's also smart enough to make wealthy friends that will buy him retirement homes and such. I think that's pretty great when you think about it.
Yeah, I've been out beating the bushes, too. I've been trying to get to Culver House. I've been trying to get to Steinbrenner, so that they'll buy me a house. But I just can't get through to those guys. I don't know what the problem is.
They probably have an unlisted number.
Well, especially when I try to call.
He is also open-minded enough to extend his circle of advisors to stargazers. I think that's something in his favor.
Yeah.
And he also gave us a beautiful first lady who looks dynamite in those free designer dresses and who solved our drug problem by just saying no.
Are you missing any clothes, by the way?
I don't think she would want anything from my closet.
No, okay.
And he's big enough to forgive. And
Mary lent her one of her dresses, and she never got it back.
Well, she didn't. Neither did the designers get theirs back.
We're not the only ones that got screwed then.
Right.
Okay.
And I think most of all, I'm grateful for that great American hero, Mr. North, that helped draw up that plan to impose martial law in the event of war, but also in the event of internal opposition to an American invasion abroad.
Well, you got to be prepared.
Yeah, that's true, but if that ever happens, I'm going to switch sides in a hurry. I will be the best little supporter you ever saw, because I am definitely a coward.
Hear what you're saying. Thank you, Dina.
Uh-huh.
Be good. For Ronald Reagan Appreciation Day, perhaps the last one we will ever really be able to do since in essence, this is it, boys and girls. This is the day that the Reagan era comes to an end. Myron in St. Petersburg. Myron, you're on the air at 970 WFLA.
Yeah, hi, Bob. How you doing?
Fine, thanks.
I'm extremely appreciative of Ronald Wilson Reagan. When he cut off the student loans there in 84, when my daughter was working her way through school at Ohio State.
Mm-hmm.
Oh, I'm very appreciative of that.
Well, sir, you...
Won't you agree? Lord knows we need trained minds to run the country.
Well, sir, she was probably studying something foolish,
I'm really grateful for what he did there. And for all the people out there that aren't millionaires, that are trying to put their kids through school.
Well, sir, Ronald Reagan's vice president has proposed a plan whereby you could save $1,000 a year and not be taxed on it.
Yeah, well, that's all I've got to say. Thank you very much.
Well, it's not my fault you send your kids to expensive schools. Good grief. Didn't you ever hear of St. Petersburg Junior College? Lawrence in Tampa. Lawrence, you're on the air at 970 WFLA.
Good show today, Bob. How are you?
Oh, fine, thank you.
Well, I think we do have a lot of debt and appreciation that we hold to Ronald Reagan.
Oh, yes, a great deal of debt.
Well, you see, I think he finally came up with something that we can all say is the best wealth transfer system from the average person to the wealthy people in the country.
Yes, well, I suppose there could have been even better ways of doing it, but then the people would have probably caught on to it more quickly. So, therefore, considering that it did transfer a pretty damn fair amount of money without anybody catching on to it, I guess it would qualify as best.
Well, that's true. I know that Bush has some other plans that he has.
Yes, indeed.
Similar to Reagan.
Yes, indeed. Now, George Bush has calculated that if we allow wealthy people to trade IBM stock back and forth amongst themselves, making profits, and we cut the capital gains tax on those profits that they make, you will prosper.
That's true. And, Bob, there again, only you and I know about things like that, and which is why I think that an appreciation day like this will certainly help everybody vote for George Bush, which I guess is...
Well, now, don't be a silly goose there. This is not going to have any effect whatsoever on the election. The only thing this does is it allows me to sit back, have a relatively easy day, sit here and shake my head a lot, and besides, almost everything that's said makes Michael laugh.
Well, this is true. He was laughing when I picked up the phone, especially the guy right before me whose daughter worked her way through college.
Mm-hmm.
I don't understand what he was complaining about. He probably... never liked those programs before he had any children. He thought they were a way that the Democrats did liberal things.
You see, Michael Serio only does this job for kicks. He is actually a member of the Serio family, which has
Serio family?
The Serio family, which holds the controlling interest in Bechtel.
I didn't realize that.
Yes, he just does this for kicks.
Well, Bob, I've got one other question. Do you have any predictions? I realize that you've told us once before you were a Republican, but have you decided yet how you're going to vote? Whether we should continue under peace and prosperity and jobs for everyone, or should we go a little bit left and go for the...
Well, that's a decision you yourself will have to make. I had threatened and very seriously considered punishing you by voting for Bush, but I have decided to be a wimp and vote my conscience and vote for Dukakis. But I would caution you to not be in the least bit influenced by what I say.
Well, I won't be. I haven't been in the past, which I keep listening every day to see if I can glean anything of importance from you. But, Bob, appreciate your phone, appreciate your time, and get the hell off the air.
Oh, okay.
Bye-bye.
Bye. Woodwood, WFLA.
Hi, Bob. I'm calling to express my appreciation for President Reagan and my appreciation for you for having this show just the day before the election so that when people go to the polls tomorrow, they can think about their situation and the world situation 8 years ago and think about what it's like today and vote for Bush and hopefully carry things forward. Specifically, I guess I'm most grateful for President Reagan stimulating the economy. And
well, sir, how much longer do you think people are going to continue to lend us money so that we can stimulate the economy?
Well, the thing I was talking about specifically was his ability in giving consumers confidence that these 19 and 20% interest rates weren't going to be around forever, and that they could go out and purchase goods.
Well, unfortunately, most of them went out and purchased Japanese goods.
That's their choice. That's their prerogative.
Well, yes, it's their choice and prerogative. I appreciate that. Do you know, sir, that America truly is the land of opportunity?
I'm sorry?
Do you know, sir, that America truly is the land of opportunity?
And Bob, I'm glad you brought that up.
Unfortunately, it's the land of opportunity if you're a businessman in Japan.
I'm glad you brought that point up because I don't think there's anyone that expresses that thought more than you do. Because where can someone who is irresponsible,
Well, now, hold on, sir.
Sure.
This show is, of course, being done in a humorous note, but when you say I'm irresponsible, I'm going to nail your ass to the wall and say, prove it, punk, or you're gone.
Oh,
Right now.
I'll just say
Right now.
myself.
Right now.
Well, someone you didn't.
Right now.
Did you finish school?
Right now, sir. Prove I'm irresponsible.
Am I on the air? Am I still on the air, Bob?
You've got 5 seconds. You start talking now.
Did you finish school?
Sir, you are gone.
Thanks, Bob.
I'm irresponsible. You're a lying 2-bit punk who will never get on this show again. How dare you, you miserable SOB. Get on the air and make a charge like that and not be able to back it up. I'm irresponsible because I didn't finish school. Well, either did Einstein, jerk. Ronald Reagan did, but he didn't know that you couldn't call missiles back. At least I have a grasp of economics and a grasp and a little bit of an understanding of history. You, sir, are the typical Reagan supporter that says anybody that doesn't agree with you is irresponsible. You're not irresponsible, sir. You're just a jerk. Mary in Tampa, you're on the air at 970 WFLA. Yes, Mary, go ahead.
I want to congratulate Ronald Reagan for being the biggest liar in the United States and make so many fools of the people that believe in him. And for all the Marines that have died around the world and a lot of other things.
Thank you, Mary. Thank you very much. Off we go to Bob in Tampa. Bob, you're on the air at 970 WFLA.
Hello there.
Yeah.
I really appreciate Ronald Reagan. I've been homeless since the Carter days, and I turned into a panhandler. And with Reagan in there and all the money, I've made more money. I even bought me a tent, a bicycle. I couldn't be happier.
Is that about it?
Yeah.
Okay. Bill in Reddington Beach. Bill, you're on the air at 970 WFLA.
That's all right, Bob. It was Phil, but we're close enough.
Okay.
We're in the same state. I wanted to thank Uncle Ronnie at least for one thing, because he's a progressive thinker and he gets progressive people in there that reinforce, the new math theory. And the new mass theory carried over into one particular area that I would like to talk about, and it's called employment. You see, all the other presidents and administration before 1983 used to count a person unemployed as a person is unemployed, and a person that gets employment, that's one for employment. But they never used to count the military, the fellows that used to go into service, whether they were called up or inducted or got drafted. Well, see, in 1983, a progressive...
Or went in because they couldn't get work.
Well, okay, you're fine. But in 1983, a progressive, intellectual within the administration, Ronnie's administration said, it would be a good idea. It would sound good to us, and it would make us look a little good, a little better, you know what I mean, if we were to count the fellows that went into service as new employment. You see, now that's one of the things when they say...
Well, there's another thing, too. In the good old days, we used to count an unemployed nuclear physicist who couldn't get work as a nuclear physicist as unemployed. But now, if he takes a 20-hour-a-week gig at McDonald's to hold him over while he's looking for a gig as a nuclear physicist, we count him as an employed nuclear physicist, yes.
Being correct. Well, see, today, some of our thinkers, we throw out these numbers that we got 17 million new jobs. Well, unfortunately... 2.1 million of these new jobs are young women and young men who have gone in service.
Well,
it's really not 17 million, but, progressive thinkers as we are, we like those big numbers.
Well, you see, even at 17 million new jobs, the rate of growth in the employment sector is lower than it was under Mr. Carter, even with those 2 million.
Yeah, but Bob, see, it looks better if we count the fellows and young ladies who go into service. It makes our numbers look better, and we're big on numbers, to look better. Do you not agree with me?
Don't ask me if I agree with you. It makes me real unhappy when people ask me questions like that. I mean, even Carolyn's gotten her hand slapped on that one on more than one occasion.
I've got my one point across. I think I better get off and let somebody else on.
Okay, take care. Shirley in St. Petersburg. Shirley will have something to appreciate.
I think so. I think you're incorrigible. But I also think that Thomas Edison was, too. And he didn't graduate from high school either.
Don't think that Mark Twain did either, if memory serves me. I could be wrong.
No, all of our great people didn't. Isn't that something?
But Ronald Reagan did. Ronald Reagan finished high school and college.
I think George
So did Edwin Meese.
And so did
Michael Beaver.
J. Danforth Quayle.
J. Danforth Quayle, that's right.
Yes, sir.
Connie Mack, too. He finished high school.
Oh, yeah. Gosh, all the...
And if he gets his way, he will finish high school.
All the ones that put up a good front did.
Mm-hmm. Well, speaking of good fronts, I believe even Paula Hawkins went to school.
You know what? I believe you're right. God. So, don't feel bad. Don't feel bad. But you're going to hate me. I got to say one good thing about Reagan, right? Mm-hmm. But then I have a question to ask.
Sure.
You might get mad.
Ronald Reagan Appreciation Day.
Okay. Well, what about national pride? He built up national pride, even though it was falsely. I mean, with Grenada and all that. It was false pride, but he built it up.
You find false pride to be something to admire?
Well, no. No, really, but he did build national pride. Just like the deficit is a false, it's all this good stuff that's happening, it's all false. And forget about the national deficit. Hey, we don't have to think about that. We've all got money. We're all doing great. I don't care if there's somebody sleeping underneath a bridge. I don't care if there's homeless walking the street. What does it matter to me?
Well, those problems are serious problems, but I'm far more concerned with somebody who's actually working and starving. For all practical purposes, obviously we're talking figuratively here.
May I say that without bringing any humility on myself or saying anything bad about myself, I'm almost one of them.
Shirley, I thank you much.
I have one more thing to say. I have a
What's
question
that? Very quickly, please.
About Reagan and the SDI. Why, if SDI is not such a good idea, why has it always been a bargaining chip on in the summits and things like that? Why are the Soviets so against it? That's just a question I have in my mind.
Well,
You'll have to give an answer.
There's a very good answer, Shirley, because the Soviets are very remiss to get involved in another escalation of the arms race. They would prefer not to have to spend trillions of dollars that they are hard-pressed to come up with.
But would they
by
do
matching
that on nothing?
They'd have to, Shirley.
I don't think so. Not on nothing.
Shirley, a 1 in 100 chance that it might work.
Yeah, but what if it did?
But Shirley, nobody will ever know.
Well, here's hoping
It's a system that can't be used. It's a system that can't be used. Because in an all-out attack, the Soviets will attack not only with their land-based missiles, which may or may not be shot down by Star Wars, but in the event that they would be, they will also attack with missiles and other bombers, et cetera, that won't be touched by Star Wars. So it's a system that will never, ever, ever be used, and if it is used, nobody will ever know if it worked because it'll still, the whole damn world will still blow up.
But wouldn't we be protecting on the land base? Wouldn't we be protecting the other thing?
What other thing?
I don't understand. I don't know. I'm not an expert.
Well, Shirley, Ronald Reagan, Ronald Reagan and his good buddy, General Mercy. Now I just lost his name. The guy that works for the industry sold you a bill of goods literally with a television cartoon with a little rainbow that sheltered your house. That was never the intent of Star Wars. Ever, ever, ever. It was an outright lie. Shirley, now I've got to run.
The only thing that sold me...
Shirley, got to run. I'm sorry, baby, but... Charlie Davis standing by with the WFLA News Brief. Connie Mack. Oh, well. 1:56 the time. Sorry to step on Connie's toes there. Let's see. What was I saying? Yes. Tragedy is Tom in Tampa had proof positive that I am irresponsible. We just went to go to his call, and unfortunately Tom couldn't stick around. Aaron in Pinellas Park. Aaron, you're on the air at 970 WFLA.
Mr. Lassiter.
Yes, Aaron.
I would like to thank Mr. Reagan for all these beautiful low-paying jobs that are around the area. And also, I would like to thank him for giving us the opportunity to chat with irresponsible Bob. Don't you agree?
I can well understand why only the low-paying jobs are available to you. Off we go to, let's see, it'll be George in Palm Harbor. Sure, why not? I love to live dangerously. George, you're on the air at 970 WFLA.
Bob, I would appreciate if you give me the chance to bring 5 points. Number one is we started from being 24th in illiteracy, and now we're 38th. This gives a good chance to us eggheads with an education to look down to all this big crowd of illiterate and semi-literate. Number two, our health care, in healthcare we were 14th, now we're 19th. That gives us less time to wait at the doctors and be taken care, because before was such a big crowd. Number three, efficiency. Our aeroplanes that carry ammunition to the Contras do not come back after they deliver their loads. Instead, they go to Colombia and they get a good
Wait a second. Wait a second. That is speculation. The other things that you have cited are primarily fact, but now you're citing speculation, and I'm not going to let you get away with it.
Okay. Number four, being all my life a military man, I can see the SDI of being a very good and highly efficient Maginot Line. And of course, we can threaten the Russians with toilet seats and coffee pots and $500 screwdrivers. I think this is the great appreciation we have for this third-rate comedian.
Thank you very much, George. Margaret in Tampa. Margaret, you're on the air at 970 WFLA.
Hello?
Yeah, go ahead, Margaret.
Oh, fine. I'm so nervous. It's my first time calling. I heard you in the car, so I'm not even sure what you're still talking about. But
you're going to call anyway.
Well, because I wanted to say what happened to us in the last 8 years. You're from Pittsburgh, you said? Or you were up there?
No, ma'am, but hurry up. I've got less than a minute left.
Okay. Well, my husband was a coal miner and came home from work after 15 years in the mines and said, well, that's over. That was in 1984. So the coal mines and the steel mills are definitely gone in southwestern Pennsylvania, and we are definitely not better off than we were 8 years ago. We're down here in Tampa starting life over, where there's middle-aged people trying to do it again. So
and that's what you're appreciative of. That doesn't sound like the proper spirit to me, Margaret, but what can I possibly say? 2 lines open, 1 at each counts for. Ronald Reagan. Appreciation Day. I'm Charlie Davis.
If you are content to work at that level, don't complain.
Oh.
That is the whole point. Yes, I'm not going to say liberal and conservative. I'm going to say right and left. I understand your show. The little I've heard it in the last week since I've been listening to it, it's about as far left as I want to get.
Oh, that's right, sir. Absolutely far left. Expand, capital crimes, throw people in jail for 25 years, the first time they stick up a gas station. That's really far left, sir. Pay as you go, right, don't finance your economy. Yeah, that's really far left thinking, sir.
Do you have an answer for all this? Do you think anybody does?
Do I have an answer for what, sir?
For all the problems that the United States has.
No, sir. No one does. No, sir.
I don't think there is either.
No, sir.
So we can't downplay who we've got on the table. And I can't understand.
What the hell does that mean? What do you mean you can't downplay who you've got on the table? Could you explain what that means to me?
Everybody's got their high points and they've got their low points. I understand that, and so do you, and so does everybody in the American public. They're not that stupid. But if you could...
Well, this is Ronald Reagan Appreciation Day, not Richard from Tampa Bragg Day. So what is it, sir, exactly that the Reagan administration has done that you appreciate?
They look out for the rich people.
Oh. John in Tampa. John, you're on the air at 970 WFLA.
Yes, I'd like to say that I appreciate Ronald Reagan for meeting with the National Association of Attorneys General this last year and gave the President Robert Abram, the Attorney General of New York, gave him a big round of applause from himself, saying that he wanted to see a stronger judicial system and things passed along judiciously through the National Association of Attorneys General.
Okay.
Thank you.
Okay. I haven't the vaguest. Peg in Tampa. Peg, you're on the air at 970 WFLA.
Hello, Bob. I would like to thank President Reagan. I think that Marion did a very eloquent job, and she touched on some of the things that President Reagan has restored to this country, that sense of pride and life being better and morality and, you just see it everywhere. And he has given us back heroes. We have heroes once again where we didn't have any. We have heroes like Oliver North and, just so many others.
Ivan Boesky, the Bass Brothers.
Ivan Boesky, yes. And I think he has redefined rules in Washington. Ronald Reagan always said that government isn't the solution, government is the problem. And he has proven it over and over again. I don't think he has ever said anything that he hasn't proven right. He's given us new rules for people in government to go by, and he's brought a Wall Street mentality to government in Washington that we needed. He's made big business respectable again, and we're seeing that. I don't think that any other president we could have had these huge takeovers that are really I think the man was correct when he said the economy has been simulated. And this has happened with these huge takeovers. It's been a simulation of the economy that has worked wonders.
Well, Peggy, this is all the kind of stuff that I said in my monologue, but what I fail to understand is, you see, I have genuinely prospered because of this type of thing. Have you been prospering because of this?
Well, not exactly. I'm just about the same way. See, I'm so busy being 0.00 of one of those 1,000 points of light that money is not my essential goal. I think that volunteerism is just marvelous, and that everyone should go out and do whatever they can in volunteering. And I think that's another thing that President Reagan has really instructed us in. And I think these people from Wall Street, they're the new gurus, the new spiritual leaders of the Americas. You hear it in the young people, the young adults. They don't want to hear this prissy business about giving to the poor and supporting things. That's for...
Well, again, Peggy, I don't quite understand how you're prospering from this.
Well, I'm prospering morally and
I think you're being sarcastic.
No. Oh, good heavens. Bob, how can you accuse me of something like that? But I think that we should have some of the local heroes. We have local heroes like Sam McClellan, who fearlessly fights for the values of the Reagan administration every day.
Peggy, now I know you're being sarcastic, so therefore I'm going to take a break. Hour 2 o'clock. Tim in Zephyr Hills. Tim, you're on the air at 970 WFLN.
Yeah, Bob. First-time caller, and I want to show my appreciation for Uncle Ronnie. I'm appreciative for the fact that he showed us the proper way to bust unions with the air traffic controllers by taking out the head of the Teamsters Union. Let's see, what else? His wife, Nancy, showing my wife how to be the perfect snob. I can't think of a whole lot more right offhand, Bob.
Okay, Tim, take care.
Thank you.
All right, this is just absolutely incredible. At 2 hours of full board, now we have not one call on the board. It's Ronald Reagan Appreciation Day. We're sending this tape to President Reagan so that he'll have, a treasury to take back with him to California. And now he's got to sit there and listen to me beg for calls from people in a Republican area to come on and appreciate him. Now, I do understand, or appreciate as the case may be, that there isn't a hell of a lot. We've had some abstracts. Well, he makes me feel better about the country. But they can't tell us why. Well, he lowered interest rates, but they can't tell us how. And outside of that, there's got to be something out of the last 8. This is disgraceful. I am begging for calls, for people to call up for poor Ronald Reagan. This is, in essence, the last day of the Reagan era. This is shameful. Begging for supporters. Now, granted, I've had a fair number of people who are being sarcastic, but that's not the intent here. The intent is to send Ronnie out with something to treasure, a tape of all of his supporters in the Tampa Bay area. And all I've talked to are a lot of supporters, you know what I mean? William in Gibsonton. William, you're on the air at 970 WFLA. William, you're on the air.
William's on the air? Good.
Yes.
This is Bob?
This is Bob.
Bob. Hey, Bob, I'm from Dallas down here about the same time that you came down here. And I've been...
Actually, I came up here, sir. I came from Miami.
Yeah, that's true, but you're from
further south.
I have a little thing that I've started to call you on a whole lot of times. First off, I'll start off with saying that I despise Ronald Reagan and every...
Sir, this is Ronald Reagan Appreciation Day.
Oh, I can't... Well, the great...
Sir, how long have you been listening to the show?
For
today.
About
today.
2 years.
No, today. How long have you been...
Today. I just tuned in.
You just tuned in.
Mm-hmm.
Well, sir, you see, in the first hour, we had a whole lot of people trying to appreciate Ronald Reagan. And we were able to tie them into knots, back them into corners, make utter fools out of them.
I see.
And since then, a lot of, well-meaning people such as yourself have called up, and not in the proper spirit of the show, to complain about Ronald Reagan. You see, what is funny, sir, is when we get these very sincere people who don't have the vaguest idea as to what in the hell they are talking about on the other end of the phone. And that's when we have a great deal of fun and, build up the ratings. You see, the whole premise of the show is I am the only man in the entire country who has genuinely prospered because of Ronald Wilson Reagan. And I'm very bummed out that today is the last day of the Reagan era. At this point in the game, I now have to sit back and wait for either Bushy or for Dukakis to make asses of themselves so that I can rip into them. And on top of that, neither man is as likely to be as much of a bumbling, stumbling buffoon as the current guy.
No one is.
Neither of them put rouge on their cheeks. Neither of them, slick back their hair with brown kiwi shoe polish. Sir, I am very bummed out today. It may be very difficult, sir, for me to maintain my position as the number one talk show host in this area.
Bob?
And this is my last hurrah, sir. The last chance I'm going to get little blue-haired ladies who live on condominiums along the Gulf and get Social Security checks calling up and telling me that I'm a socialist.
Yeah, I know.
But I thank you for the effort anyway, William. John on a car phone somewhere in Tampa. John, you're on the air at 970 WFLA.
Yeah, Bob, I'd like to show my appreciation to Mr. Reagan. He's been a fine man, a fine president, and
Could you be a tad more? Could you be a tad more specific?
Your irresponsibility in
could you be a tad more specific?
Your irresponsibility in your whole job.
Sir, I'm not a reporter.
Been so irresponsible.
Well, you should be very grateful that now you have.
Responsibilities. You have no responsibility, and you have no respect for the president.
Sir, all I have is one hell of a damn good radio show that suckers you in every day. Oh, pity poo. He doesn't understand that if he screams into his car telephone that he will overmodulate and it will disconnect. But nonetheless, he's listening now again. John, perhaps I am an irresponsible man, but God, don't I put on one hell of a good radio show. Get you every afternoon. Bill in Lakeland. Bill, you're on the air at 970 WFLA.
Bob.
Oh, yes.
I don't know if you ever heard this quote or not, but a great actor and a prince of a human being. He's still alive, and he appears on the TalkNet show at nighttime, the late night show. You know which one I'm talking about. He gave him a great compliment. He said he was in the Actors Guild with him for 30 years. He said the man never had an original idea in his life.
Thank you, Bill in Lakeland. Do I have to spell it out a little bit more specifically for you people? Eddie in Tampa. Eddie, you're on the air at 970 WFLA.
Yes, I'd like to say Ronald Reagan has been very good in office.
Well, could you give us some specifics, sir?
Sure, he's kept us out of war. You know, they may say the taxes and all this other stuff, but I think he's done a great job.
Sir, that no one tried to go to war with us.
No, I know, but he could have put us in war.
Sir, you might say that, Mikhail Gorbachev has kept us out of war by not declaring war against us.
Exactly.
So are you going to vote for, Crazy Mike or what?
Right.
Yeah.
Okay, I was just giving you my thoughts.
Your thoughts?
Yes,
That's what I was afraid of.
Yeah, I think he's done a swell job.
Sir, most of the time I've severely chastised people for parroting back to me other people's thoughts. In your case, sir, I would recommend it. Richard in St. Petersburg. Richard, you're on the air at 970 WFLA.
Yeah, Bob,
This is amazing the way they just keep rolling right off.
Yeah, I'm appreciative. Hello?
Yeah, go ahead, Rich.
I didn't know if I was rambling or you're rambling. Anyways, I want to say that I'm appreciative to the fact that the administration has come to the point where I can now look to the flag, put my right hand over my heart and my left hand under my thigh and make the old double O's.
Well, whatever turns you on there, Richard. John in Indian Rocks. John, you're on the air at 970 WFLA.
Yeah, Bob, I'd like to give my appreciation to Ronbo for shutting up Gaddafi. I don't know if you agree with that when he bombed him, but...
Do I agree that he bombed him? Yes, I believe I read that somewhere.
Yeah, did you agree with him?
I'm a reasonably well-read man. I try to look at the paper every day.
Yeah, did you agree with him doing that?
Did I agree with him doing that?
Mm-hmm.
Well, no, sir, I don't agree with provoking people deliberately, and I don't agree with punishing people for something that they didn't do.
What they didn't do?
No, sir.
Well, Mr. Gaddafi took blame for thousands of terrorist attacks.
Well, no, sir. Mr. Gaddafi was being punished for one very specific act in West Germany at a servicemen's club where somewhat later the West Germans caught the party responsible and they had no connections to Gaddafi whatsoever. Mr. Gaddafi was basically guilty, sir, of sitting on a tractor in a pastel jumpsuit with a scarf out in the middle of the desert insulting the president on nightly television. That was his primary offense.
It was?
Yes. And for which we bombed the French embassy.
We bombed the French embassy?
Yes, our smart bombs landed in rather dumb places.
Mm-hmm. Well, I got news for Gaddafi. Them smart bombs of Reagan were just sending him a message.
Yes, sir, it was a very clear message.
Yeah.
That our smart bombs are not very good.
No.
That's why they took out the French embassy.
You know right where his tent was, and F-111Bs in the middle of the night could have
right where his tent was.
Bleep.
Sir, do you mean a country as strong as the United States of America felt threatened by a guy that sleeps in a tent?
They didn't feel threatened by him.
Well, then what the hell did they bomb him for, sir? They weren't threatened by him.
You had the balls to do anything about him? You ain't heard a peep out of him now, have you?
Sir, the same guy that sent over the smart bombs to take out the French embassy,
yes,
also condoned 5 American oil companies doing business with Libya.
Yeah.
And they still are doing business with Libya. He said, geez, if it wasn't them, it would be somebody else. So they were actually putting money into Muammar Gaddafi. This is, by the way, is the same administration that tried to buy trucks from a car company that Muammar Gaddafi owns for the army.
That's nice.
Yeah, it's nice. But you kind of enjoyed watching it on the television the next morning, right? All that rubble and the smoke and all those innocent people running around with bandages on and bleeding. Yeah, that really got even with Gaddafi. By the way, sir, it was a year later that the same administration that taught him a lesson when they bombed the French embassy over there, a year later they said that Gaddafi was even more active in terrorism. But it didn't seem to work.
Well, maybe he's been more active, but he's not been boasting about it.
Oh, well, that's the only thing that counts is whether or not he boasts about it.
Yeah. See, any terrorist act he's been recently, you haven't heard him coming out. I just trained him, or I funded him with millions of my oil money, or anything else.
Well, sir, I don't ever remember him saying that anyway.
No?
No.
Well?
I know. Details.
Yeah, that's true.
Yeah.
Got another question.
Facts are stupid things, aren't they?
Yeah.
Yeah, well, what's the other question?
Where does it in the Constitution state that everybody must be middle class and have a job and a house?
I don't believe that's in the Constitution, sir. That's something that's in that is something, sir, that for the last 200 years has been in the hearts and souls of every human being who lived in this country. It's not actually in the Constitution. It's just one of those things that's in our hearts.
I know it's in everybody's heart, but a lot of your callers seem to think they're guaranteed a right in the Constitution to whatever middle-class wages we considered.
Well, sir, I don't recall anybody on this show. As a matter of fact, I don't recall anybody all the years I've listened to talk radio saying anything of the kind.
They've intoned it.
They've intoned it?
Mm-hmm.
Oh. You mean, in other words, you have this ability to know what people really mean?
Yeah.
You might offer your services as Ronald Reagan's interpreter for, like after a news conference or something like that?
I'd gladly do it.
Because, it takes his guys almost 24 hours before they can figure out what he really meant.
Yeah.
You could just stand there right next to him and say, no, I know what he said, but that's not what he meant.
No, I probably could.
I'll bet you could.
What do you make them now? I'm low-level income.
Mm-hmm.
Solid Republican.
Mm-hmm. Most solid Republicans are low-level people, sir, income-wise.
How come everybody says Republicans are for the rich?
Well, sir, because they are.
How come
you're not a Republican, sir. You're just a registered Republican.
You're low-level income.
Because, sir, you're not a Republican. You're just a registered Republican.
I'm a Republican till I die.
Is that about it?
That's about it, Bob.
Okay, take care.
You too.
All right, now, you amateur comedians out there, you see what I can get if you don't tie up my lines with your damn foolish attempts at humor? I can get the real thing on the line. This is what the hell you tuned in for, right? You didn't tune in to hear some pathetic bozo sitting in St. Petersburg and said, I think I'll call up Bob and I'll try to be sarcastic and say humorous things about Ronald Reagan. Hey, look, I'm the pro. I'm the one that knows what's funny. If you guys were as good as me, you'd have your own damn shows, right? Don't mess up my phones. I know what I'm doing here. This is choice material. Do you know how hard it is to get somebody like him on the phone? This man does not have a great deal of tenacity. If he dials once and gets a busy signal, he ain't going to dial back. Good grief. That's what I give you guys Anything Goes Friday for. Don't mess up the good stuff on Monday. Did you want to take a break? Okay, do it. Tampa, Marge, you're on the air, 970 WFLA.
Hello.
Yes, Marge.
Bob. I want to share my appreciation to President Reagan because I think he made a lot of people happy during his administration, and especially you because it's during this time that you could afford to purchase a Lincoln. So things must have been pretty good.
Well, not because of anything that Ronald Reagan did to actually put money in my pocket, ma'am. It was my cleverness in being able to pounce upon his stupidity and turn it into damn good radio that has put a lot of money in my pocket as well as a Lincoln in my garage.
If you had the charisma, if you had the know-all that Ronald Reagan had, you wouldn't be sitting where you are today.
You better believe it. I couldn't have gotten a job like this. He doesn't think fast enough on his feet, ma'am. Have you ever heard that man try to talk off the top of his head?
That man has it, and his rating is up, and you only wish that you had the smarts that Ronald Reagan has.
No, ma'am, I wish I had the friends that he has, but if I was cursed with his ability to just talk off the top of my head, ma'am, I couldn't have gotten a job in Davenport.
Well, I'm surprised that you're keeping your job there the way you talk to the call and to the people who call in. I'm very surprised that you're holding your job as long as you have.
How long have I held it?
What, 3 years here, isn't it?
Yeah, well, there was at another station too, right?
Yes, that's right.
What other station was that?
You were over on that TC, whatever it is over there. At Miami, you were in Miami.
And I was in Miami, too. Well, you see, Marge, the reason I've been able to hold this job is because I've gotten people such as yourself to follow me from station to station to station.
You know the station I had on right before your other station.
Oh, I can't begin to imagine.
ready to turn it off. I turned you on just to see what you were complaining about. You were constantly complaining about the United States. Why don't you go to another country?
What was that other station, ma'am? You said you were listening to another station? Oh, WTKN.
Yes.
Would they have another exciting interview with a cookbook author?
From 1 to 2.
Or maybe it was Mamie Van Doren again.
You know, Mary Ann, that woman knows what she's talking about.
It was utterly amazing. I was driving home the other day, and this poor new turkey on there, who obviously knows nothing about the business, had actually, believe it or not, Mamie Van Doren as his guest. And he started the hour by saying, if you want to line up your calls in advance for Mamie Van Doren before I talk to her, and he gave out the phone numbers.
Is that right?
Oh, I want to tell you, I damn near drove off across town.
You know, Mary Ann, who calls, you should give her a chance to talk, because...
Well, wait a second. Mary Ann called over an hour ago.
I know, but she...
So you weren't listening to TKN, you were listening to this station.
I listened to Mary Ann because that's...
Gotcha, Marge. Fibber. Margie is a fibber.
Why don't you let people talk? Why don't you let Mary Ann talk? She knows what she's talking about.
What? She's the one that hung up on me, man.
No, she didn't hang up on you.
Yes, she did.
No,
she always does. She always accuses me of hanging up on her.
Mary Ann made a statement.
Marge, I have made a very comfortable living talking to women like Mary Ann. Do you think I'm going to hang up on her? Why do you think I haven't hung up on you?
Well, if you hang up on everyone...
I'll keep you to 3 o'clock, baby.
No, if you hang up on everyone, you're not going to have anyone to talk with.
If this station had any sense, they'd ask me to keep you on, blow Norman out today, just so I could keep you on.
Is that right?
I mean, people are already calling up their friends saying, you gotta tune in Lassiter, he's got another one on.
Right. Well, I hope if you get...
She's not as good as Mary Ann, but she's almost as good.
You're voting for the caucus, and I hope you get, if he should get in, which would be a disaster to this country, I hope you get all you're asking for. Maybe you won't be riding around in your link. If you think so much
I'm not going to get all of that. Marge, I'm not going to get all I'm asking for. However, there is a provision in my contract that calls for binding arbitration, so I'm not going to get as little as they're offering either. It'll be someplace in between.
Well, if you vote for the caucus, I'll tell you, you're sitting on your brains. Goodbye.
Gee, Marge forgot to tell us during the course of her conversation why she appreciated Ronald Reagan. In South Tampa, Ruth, you're on the air at 970 WFLA.
Yes, I think the one thing, there's many things that I'm appreciative for, but I'll only express about 2. We have not had to hear of all the whores that's been drug into the White House with our president showing what little sense and what little morals he had. And there's just so many things, and perhaps 10 to 15, 20 years from now, we won't have to hear a murder that might have been perpetrated by a president and his brother, like we heard on Marilyn Monroe the other night.
Yeah.
So
what was that, Geraldo Rivera?
That's really, and we do have a few morals in the White House, something we hadn't had for a long time. Thank you.
Okay, all right. There's a good reason to appreciate Ronald Reagan. He doesn't frolic with whores. His age, he probably can't. Joe in Tampa. Joe, you're on the air at 970 WFLA.
Hello.
Yes, Joe.
I appreciate Ronald Reagan because he believes in the handicapped holding office. In fact, I think he's a living proof that senility has a place.
Joe.
What?
Well, Joe, again, Joe, I am on a roll. You know what I mean, man?
But listen,
I am on Joe. We'll just make this a one-sided conversation. I am on a roll. I am dragging these people out of the woodwork left and right. I do not need, speaking of the handicap, feeble attempts at humor, Joe. I've got the real thing, man. What the hell? Do you work for the competition? Is that what you're calling me up for? I mean, man, don't you understand when a guy's on a roll? I mean, the stuff's just rolling right out of my head. I got the real thing here. This is funny as, you know what? Whoa, Joe, give me a break. What the hell, you want Freddie Mertz back here? What's going to happen if you guys keep tying up my phones with these feeble attempts? Now, if I didn't have the real thing, it would be a different story. But when I come on and say, this is Ronald Reagan Appreciation Day. Joe, you've never heard anything more asinine in your entire life than Ronald Reagan Appreciation Day. Do I have to spell it out for you, Joe? That's a clear-cut signal to the hopelessly befuddled out there to come on the air and try desperately to defend Ronald Reagan. You sit back, you listen to it, you slap your thigh, you say, oh, that Lassiter, listen to that one. And then what do? You call up, you take a line. Perhaps the most befuddled person in the entire Bay Area was also trying to call in on that line at that moment, Joe. I mean, man, I appreciate your efforts, but... You know, sometimes it's not easy. It is not easy being the mad dog. A lot of people say, boy, I wish I was the mad dog. He's got an easy job, just sits there and people call him up and he rips into them and everybody laughs and he earns a lot of money and gets high ratings. I could do that. No, you couldn't do it if your phones were tied up with people like Joe. God. Don Richards with the WFLA News Brief. I mean, the spell is broken now. Now we might as really well break it. George, 2:54 the time. I mean, let me take a moment here to help out my friends, the sore losers on the Democratic side. I've pointed out to you people before that in terms of the National Party, you guys don't know how to use the media, okay? Well, even on a local level, you guys don't know how to use the media. I mean, here it is, Ronald Reagan Appreciation Day, so you guys want to go on and say things like, well, I used to have a good job, but now I don't. I appreciate that. No. Nobody cares. You guys go on and say things like, well, I really appreciate Ronald Reagan for ruining the economy. No. Nobody cares. Use the media properly, and the way to use the media properly is to let the people through who genuinely do appreciating. Then let everybody else hear just what it is that they appreciate. Nothing. That's an effective use of the media. What in the hell do I have to write a handbook for you people? Damn Democrats, you're all stupid. Richard in Tampa. Richard, you're on the air at 970 WFLA.
Hello. I wrote a short list here just in the past few minutes, and I think the first and foremost thing the president has accomplished is in all his years, the minimum wage hasn't been raised one penny.
You haven't listened to a damn thing I've said. Nobody cares, Richard. I'm on a roll. I've got befuddled old ladies on here. I've got befuddled old men on here calling up saying, oh, I appreciate the president because once I went to Europe in 1979 and they weren't nice to me, but now they are. And you call up and talk about the minimum wage?
Yes, as a businessman, I find that to be...
You don't know how to use the media. You're just another dumb Democrat, sore loser. Get off my phone, you subhuman ratings ruiner. Donald in Clearwater. Donald, you're on the air at 970 WFLA.
Monsieur Robert, I think you're doing a marvelous job of pointing out the absolute ludicrousness of this whole situation. Carry on, my friend, and sock it to him.
Thank you. Norman, I mean, have you been listening?
Bob, I just come down. You're horrible, Bob. You're insulting our president. I know you are. You say it's Ronald Reagan Appreciation Day, but I know you're lying.
Shh, cool it, Norman. Most of them down. Don, the crane operator. Don, you're on the air at 970 WFLA.
Bob, how you doing?
Oh.
I heard you're having a rough day there, buddy.
Rough day. It's one of the best days of my life. I mean, I got shtick beyond belief.
Bobby, I'll tell you, it's quite a day. I've been listening all day, and I've been wanting to get through to you. You know how my heart feels. And, I have no appreciation for Reagan, and I probably shouldn't be calling for this.
That's right, Don. I've got somebody named Lulu Bell who I'm sure is going to be. But thank you nonetheless. Oh, Norman, I tell you, man, this is a tough audience today. Tough audience.
Fair enough, Bobby, but you're insulting the president. You're not a good American.
I'm doing my damnedest. Steve and Brandon. Steve, you're on the air at 970 WFLA.
Hey, man, what's up?
Steve in Tampa. Steve, you're on the air at 970 WFLA. It's very difficult to tell whether Steve is a Democrat or a Republican because both have been known to be so stupid as to just sit there and listen to the radio.
Hello?
Yes, Steve. Now we'll find out.
I'm calling, you don't really appreciate Ronald Reagan.
I don't appreciate Ronald Reagan.
Not the way you're talking.
Sir, in the first week of November 1980, I was an obscure little beautiful music announcer in Pittsburgh, Pennsylvania. Sir, I have networks calling me now. Why? Because of Ronald Reagan, sir.
How can you vote for Michael Dukakis then?
Because, sir, I'm looking out for your best interest.
My best interest? You gotta be kidding me.
Well, sir, I appreciate that if this administration continues, that you won't have any difficulty getting dope. Apparently, you don't have any now, and so therefore you may have a vested interest yourself.
I don't even do that stuff.
You don't even do it.
Nah.
Oh.
I'm voting for Ron Paul. There's not been anything said about him. I don't like Michael Dukakis. I don't like George Bush.
Sir, the reason nothing has been said about Ron Paul is because his policies are cut of the same cloth as the Emperor's new clothes. Grant in Largo. Grant, you're on the air at 970 WFLA.
Hey, Bob. I think what's been missing is that Reagan was in the most corrupt administration in history.
Nobody cares, Grant. Nobody cares. This is Ronald Reagan Appreciation. This is the day set aside. It's the last chance we're ever going to have, Grant, to hear from those delightful little blue hairs. And what do? You come on and say, this is the most corrupt administration. Who cares? This is talk radio, man. It's not real life.